Is a war breaking out in the Arctic? At least preparation for the worst is underway. Reports say the United States is contemplating building a weapons storage facility in the Arctic. The question is it in preparation to fight Russia? Now, these are the 8 Arctic countries: Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and the United States. 7 out of 8 are NATO members. They consider an armed attack against one member as an attack against all. Remember, Finland and Sweden are the newest NATO members. The Russian President Vladimir Putin's fear has made them join the bloc. And now it is NATO's time to do its bit, to ensure Finland and Sweden are protected, to ensure its weapons are deployed in the Arctic accordingly. Right now, America's APS, or Army Prepositioned Stocks, are placed in 2 sites in Germany, in Dülmen and Menium. Now, there are also spots in the Netherlands, Eygelshoven, Poland's Powidz, Belgium's Zoetendal, and Italy's Livorno. But to defend Finland and Sweden, especially in the middle of the Ukraine war, the US will need to look high north at the Arctic. And where exactly? Norway is being looked at as a possible option. And how exactly do we know that? Well, meet Major General Ronald Reagan. He is the commanding general for America's 21st Theater Sustainment Command. And he recently said that Norway could be an option for future APS. Could it be near Svalbard? Did you know Norway's Svalbard archipelago is the world's northernmost permanent human settlement? Svalbard, in fact, is also very close to Russian Kola. That's where Moscow has a submarine stationed. Picking a place for weapon storage will not be so simple. Such deals include long diplomatic process. After all, we are talking about placing weapons in another country. It's not simple or small. I mentioned APS, Army Prepositioned Stock. What do you think goes into such stocks? The current European sites have equipment that's worth sustaining an armored brigade combat team. There are also engineers, artillery, military police, medical capabilities. These are huge spaces. The Zoetendal stock site, for example, has 28 warehouses. These have 990,000 square feet of space. Plus, you have an additional 77,000 square yards of outdoor staging, 27 maintenance bays, 12,000 square feet of hazardous material storage, and more. Where in Norway could such a place come up is the question. And if not Norway, then where? Look at some of the places where Russia is stationed. There is the Olengorsk site in the Kola Peninsula. There is also Vorkuta, which is just north of the Arctic Circle. At Ostrovnoy, by the Barents Sea, Russia reportedly has resonance and radar systems. Russia claims this radar system can detect stealth aircraft and objects. In fact, Russia has deployed this radar at the Arctic. It also has runways in the Arctic. Reports claim there are weatherproof enclosures at Russia's Tiksi air defense site. You see, the Arctic has been a very important oil and gas sector for Russia. Nearly 20% of the country's GDP comes from the Arctic area. So the country has had its hold over the region for a while now. And over the years, Russia has deployed military resources there. It has refurbished old Soviet bases in the Arctic. And Russia has tested hypersonic missiles in the Arctic. Not too long ago, Chinese and Russians jointly patrolled waters in the Arctic near Alaska. And by the way, in a 2018 declaration, China called itself a near-Arctic power. It designates the Arctic for considerable investment and considers Russia as a potential partner in the Arctic. But that's a story for another day. Today, things are fast changing in the Arctic, to say the least. Polar ice caps are melting. New shipping routes are opening up. And Asia-Europe sea route along the Russian coast could significantly cut the journey time. We are basically looking at around 2 weeks less. The northern sea route is already garnering a lot of attention. And if this route becomes a vital shipping lane, then Russia gets to control almost all of this route. It also gets a huge diplomatic and economic leverage. And the West knows this. There is something else as well it is concerned about. Western experts point that Russia operates a third more Arctic military bases than the US and NATO combined. In other words, it has strategic advantage in the Arctic. And that's not even all. There is also the century-old treaty allowing Russians to live in Svalbard visa-free. So is it the US now trying to play catch-up? Is the NATO trying to match Russian firepower in the Arctic? Last year, the NATO chief was quoted as saying the shortest way from Russia to North America is over the Arctic North Pole. So the strategic importance of these areas has not changed because of the war in Ukraine, quote unquote. You see, what has changed since the beginning of the war is the sense of security among the European countries, one that has nudged Finland and Sweden to join the NATO, and now NATO must get down to work, basically, and prepare to defend these countries. But will it, in the process, end up provoking Russia? Just yesterday, we told you how a Russian ambassador had made some rather harsh comments as far as Finland is concerned. Pavel Kuznetsov, who is Russia's ambassador to Finland, said that Russia would retaliate if NATO-backed nuclear weapons were placed on Finnish soil. Kuznetsov said, and I'm quoting again, the Finns cannot but realize that such a major provocation will not be left without a Russian response. What about an American weapon storage in the Arctic? How would Russia react to that? Will the fast-moving developments make the Arctic the next flashpoint? Is Israel preparing to target Iran's nuclear facilities? I asked that question because the Israel-Iran shadow war is taking a dangerous turn with each passing day. After allegedly bombing Iran's diplomatic mission in Syria, Israel, it seems, is planning something bigger. According to a report cited by the Times of Israel, the country has been conducting Air Force drills recently. And what are they in preparation of exactly? Well, the report says Israel is preparing to target Iran's nuclear facilities and other key infrastructure. You see, regional tensions escalated when suspected Israeli warplanes bombed Iran's consulate in Damascus last week, killing 7 people, including Iran's top commander. Though Israel neither confirmed nor denied involvement, both Tehran and Damascus blamed Israel. In fact, Iran also swore revenge for the killing of its military generals. Since then, Israel has been in a state of high alert, bracing itself for any retaliatory strike from its arch nemesis. They say that if Iran attacks Israel directly, Israel will retaliate by striking targets. But by the looks of it, Israel is not taking any chances. Over the weekend, Israel relocated troops from Gaza's Khan Yunis, in fact, cancelled leaves for its combat units, and mobilized more troops for air defense units. And if the latest report about Israel preparing to attack Iranian nuclear plants is accurate, then the world may be staring at a big escalation in West Asia, bigger than the ones previously imagined. It raises the specter of a wider war. Could Israel attack Iran's nuclear facilities? Experts say Israel could. In fact, let me tell you about what happened in the year 1981. In June of that year, the Israeli Air Force bombed an unfinished nuclear reactor in Iraq. It was Israel's most daring airstrike. In the 1970s, Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein had started work on building a nuclear reactor. Israel, considering it as a big threat, bombed the under-construction nuclear reactor. It was the longest-range airstrike by Israel in a single day. But realistically speaking, what happens when you attack a nuclear facility? Radioactive leak that would result in death and destruction. Simply put, it would be catastrophic. The question is, will Israel go that far? Will the tensions between Israel and Iran take a nuclear turn? Also, what do the numbers look like? Although there is no official data on this, multiple reports suggest that Israel's nuclear stockpile ranges between 80 to 400 nuclear warheads. These warheads reportedly can be delivered in multiple ways by aircraft, submarines, missiles, you name it. We are not saying Israel will use them, but in times of rising tensions, of course, it's worth factoring in the capabilities of the countries. And remember, since the Gaza war erupted, a number of Israeli officials have not only publicly talked about Israel's possession of nuclear weapons, but have suggested how such weapons of mass destruction could be used to target Gaza. So then, in case there is a full-scale regional war with Iran, could things take a nuclear turn, is the question. There's, of course, no way of knowing. Let's talk about Iran for now. Until now, Tehran has avoided directly entering the conflict in West Asia, but it has supported its heavily armed proxies in the region. It has also ramped up its uranium enrichment program. According to the United Nations nuclear watchdog, IAEA, Iran has sped up production of 60% enriched uranium. This is very close to the 90% needed for a nuclear bomb. But the IAEA also states that Iran does not seem to have made the political decision to translate its growing nuclear capability into a weaponization program. And more recently, Iran also attacked an Israeli manned intelligence outpost in Iraq. According to Western media reports, the Islamic Republic has also made its military more immune to first strikes against its key missile and nuclear facilities. Iran and its proxies are believed to be in possession of long-range, high-precision missiles that could easily reach Israeli targets. All this worries the US and its allies. Already they worry about Tehran's potential to make a nuclear bomb, which the West has long sought to curb. But having the technical ability does not mean that Iran is interested in building a nuclear bomb. Experts also say that even though Iran occasionally issues threats, it's not interested in courting a wider war. Since the war started, experts have been warning that should Israel's moves against Hamas bring it into direct conflict with Iran, the result would be immediate escalation. 6 months later, the possibility of a direct Israel-Iran conflict is looking more and more plausible. Will the shadow war take a nuclear turn? That remains to be seen. How much do you think an average Indian CEO earns? Let's get straight to the numbers. According to a Deloitte India survey, this figure stands at 13.8 crore rupees. That's $1.6 million. That is how much Indian executives make. And those who also work as promoters earn even more. That is 16.7 crore rupees, or over $2 million. Over half of this amount is linked to short-term and long-term incentives. Before the pandemic, the average CEO pay stood at 9.8 crore rupees. That is $1.1 million. You see, there has been a 40% rise. The CXO pay packets have grown fatter. About 3 out of every 4 CEOs in India now earning more than 5 crore rupees. That makes up for 75% of all CEOs in India. This was 66% in the year 2020. The percentage of those earning between 10 crore and 20 crore rupees has increased from 22% to 27%. And for those earning more than rupees 20 crore, it has doubled from 10% to 21%. It's ironic, to say the least, because during the same period, the tech sector has gone on a layoff spree. Last year itself, around 1,200 companies laid off close to 263,000 employees. This year, in January alone, 91 tech companies fired almost 30,000 employees. In February, 74 major tech firms let go of more than 15,000 workers. Youth unemployment rates are high. Online hiring activity for both hardware and software plummeted by 18% last year. In the October to December quarter, unemployment in India's youths aged 20 to 24 years rose to 44.49%. Why did that happen? One would assume because of an economic slump, but if that was really the case, how did the CEOs end up earning more than ever? It doesn't quite add up. It's not like the firms have not been making profits. They are, but it seems they are handing it all over to the top brass, and the lower level employees perhaps all that they're getting is severance pay, and in some cases, not even that. Consider this, only a handful of companies hold a significant share of the world's wealth. Microsoft accounting for $3.1 trillion, Apple for $2.68 trillion, Nvidia $2.21 trillion, Alphabet $1.84 trillion, Amazon $1.81 trillion, Meta Platforms $1.26 trillion. Yet, over the last few months, Amazon, Microsoft, Google have all laid off workers in India, all while their CXOs have taken home fatter checks. Why is this happening? Is it because of the rise in automation? Artificial intelligence and automation picking up pace in India, in fact, not just in India, but across the world. And with that, many roles in IT are becoming redundant. Earlier in the year, digital payments company Paytm laid off 1,000 employees from its operations, sales and engineering teams, all because of AI-powered automation aimed at cutting 10 to 15% employee costs. At a global level, tech giant Google is reportedly restructuring its 30,000-odd sales teams as its AI campaign manager eliminates the need for human oversight. Sportswear brand Nike has said it will slash hundreds of positions globally amid poor sales and expand automation to save $2 billion over the next 3 years. So you see, companies are cutting costs from the employees, and it seems that they're showering this on the executives.